Can you raise your hands? Okay.
Shadi, we have many students missing today. There are only 32 students right now, I think.
Okay, so okay, well, let's give it 1 more minute to allow more students to come. If they didn't come, I'm sorry. They know that we are taking the attendance around this time every day, so we cannot do much here. So we'll stay 1 minute more.
Mr. Asad,
Yes.
I have a question. Um, did you upload the video for the additional lab?
I'm going to upload the video of lab and lecture just now.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I'm already actually uploading it.
Huh?
I'm already uploading it now.
Okay.
Okay, Fatima and Sheikha, can you raise your hands? And with this notes, we can just start to really look at the content for the day. So for the last few days, especially when we started this week, we were talking about the NIST framework, but we were focusing on this is specifically part of the NIST framework, which is basically dedictions. As I mentioned before, in the last months, we were really concerned in Security Plus or the last 4 weeks about the 3 areas here, which is identification, protections, and responding. But the whole course here for the next few weeks is talking about dedictions. And dedictions is basically a mechanism to really see if there is something maliciously happen inside the organization. And we explained yesterday why detection is important right now. And I said the main problem that we have right now is basically we have so many new technologies, okay, are emerging, like bring your own device, cloud computing, virtualization. Okay, so there's so many technologies are there, and there is no much expert in these areas to really secure our networks 100%. So to reach to have 100% protection against these new technologies is almost impossible. So you can reach to maybe 90%, okay, protection or prevention controls. So you can implement firewalls, you can implement IDS and IPS, you can implement encryption, all this, you can implement access control, all this nice technology to prevent the attacks. Okay, it will get you around 90%. Okay, so how about the 10%? Those 10% you cannot really reach using prevention techniques. So what we have said that we, in order to really be able to protect our network, we need to implement detections techniques. Detection techniques, we really need to combine it with responding techniques. So as soon as we find out about the incidents, we can respond quickly so that it will not cause us any harm. And this prevention technique and detection techniques and responding, that the new terminology for them is basically cyber security resiliency. And what we mean by cyber security resiliency, you're not only trying to protect against attack, but also you are able to detect an attack and respond in an efficient way that it will not cause you a lot of damage and a lot of harm. And we talked about also yesterday, the problem is...
Sorry, Mr. Shadi, but I just came and I want someone who take my attendance.
You was not here, Sheikha?
My name is Ghaida.
Ghaida. Okay, I think Mr. Asad is still around, so you can send him a message in like...
Yeah, I'm taking the attendance still.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, so another problem is, guys, we mentioned also, we have so many new technologies, and these new technology, the attacker need only to find one certain vulnerability within this technology, and the defender teams need to really protect all this technology. So it's almost impossible to defend all these vulnerabilities, especially we have groups of hackers, which is very specialized right now for attacking system. And we mentioned a couple of them yesterday. So we mentioned that we have nation states hackers. They can be after your system, and you have the APT hackers also. And these guys are really professional when it comes to really evading and bypassing your protections of lines, and also the nature of work that we have right now for people taking their laptop to home and work from home, and can someone really target them by phishing emails or by social engineering, is also opening the door for attacks. So what is really a solution for all these issues with protection? I will not say it was is an issue. I will say there is a shortcoming of our protection techniques. Okay, this shortcoming of protection techniques, we can compensate it by detection techniques. Okay, why? We wanted to detect any malicious activity coming from an advanced hackers like these guys, APT or nation states. Okay, we want also to implement responding in appropriate time, so we'll be able to respond to attacks as soon as we really detect the attacks or anomalies within our network. So this is what we have talked about yesterday. We talked about also in general, okay, you have your protection is protecting 90% out of your organization. And then in 10%, okay, you really need to do detection techniques or detection methodology to detect anomalies, okay? And in order to detect anomalies within the organization, okay, you really need to implement two concepts that we talked about yesterday and the day before. It's called threat intelligence and threat intelligence and threat hunting. Okay, what is the difference between threat intelligence and threat hunting? So, okay, I just wanted to show you another diagram so it would be easy to you guys to remember what I have talked about yesterday. So here in this diagram, okay, just do this here. Okay, so we have, this is our tiers, and this is also we have covered in the first day when we talked about team responsibilities and team and the different teams that exist when it comes to detections. And we said there is a SOC analyst tier 1, and we have SOC analyst tier 2. Okay, we have the incident responders. They may be also part of the same team. Okay, and we have the threat hunters. Okay, so what is a different tier is doing? I mentioned to you guys yesterday. I will explain to you, Shaza. Let me just explain this point first. So these guys over here in the left-hand side, they work as reactive team. Reactive means they are waiting for an incident to take a place, and then they will, according to the incident and the analyzing the incidents, analyzing the data logs and all the stuff, they are able to respond to an attack. This guy over here, which is we call it sometimes tier 3, SOC tier 3, the incident response is working as proactive mode. And the proactive mode, as I mentioned yesterday, they are not waiting for an incident to happen so they can take an action. No, they are actively looking at your systems, okay, and trying to find any malicious activity within the system. How they do their job? They use the threat intelligence that we talked about it a few days ago, okay, to get a new threats that emerging threat trending from outside, and they use this data to apply it within and look for artifacts within your network and indication that your system has been compromised. And the way that they do this, I mentioned this guy yesterday, does have a lot of knowledge about your network, does have a lot of knowledge about your assets within your organization, does have a lot of knowledge about the architect of application within your organization, does have analytic mind, so he can do hypothesis and do a research about certain and collect data and then come to conclusion if the hypothesis is right or wrong. So this is what we talked about yesterday. So we mentioned in order to do detections, we have two schools. One school is basically reactive schools. That is, they are waiting for an incident to take place, and then they will respond to it. And another school is basically proactive, and we need both of them. We need this for a regular incidents. We need this for the new incidents that's coming from APT or nation states, because usually they are very sneaky and they are very, I would say, slow within your network. They are almost impossible to detect in a normal ways. So we need someone to look for this threat and hunt for it within the organization. And we mentioned also that threat hunting also it's a process, and the process is started by the hunter is giving hypothesis for this system is being compromised or no, and then he will go to collect data accordingly, whether this data coming from outside like a threat intelligence, or whether this data coming from logs within the organization. And accordingly, he, after analyzing these logs, analyzing this threat intelligence, he can tell if we are under attacks or not. So this is basically what we have covered. And we mentioned there is someone here called incident responders, and the incident response is also a process within the organization. Means if we detected an incident, whether these incidents are coming from your SOC team or whether these incidents are coming from your threat hunters, the incident response team is the one that can to do containment for this incident. They do a lot of also eradication for the root cause of the incident, and they try to recover the system to a good state. So this is what we have covered this week so far. Does this make sense so far, guys? Okay, I have a question here from Shaza. IDS and IBS considered as a detection rights and just as a protection. Very good questions. And I think, mashallah, Lamia have already mentioned to you IDS is detection and IBS is prevention. So this is actually a right answers. But why we need both of them, guys? I will tell you why we need both of them sometimes. So sometimes, guys, you are in a network, okay, and you really need to have an IBS, which is prevention control. Prevention control means it will take an action
and
once. Yeah.
maybe this.
Hello, Asad. Okay, so IBS, guys, is prevention. What we mean by prevention, all your network traffic are coming to your IBS. Okay, the IBS will look at certain signature for an attack and take a decision to reset the connection or to block this traffic. So IBS working as the prevention techniques. But in some cases, guys, I cannot really do this. Why? Especially in SCADA systems. In SCADA systems, it's a different systems, is very, very unpredictable, I would say, because it's an old devices that work in our factories and our, industrial grids. So what happens is if you are implementing IBS and IBS is not really tuned, there is some very important traffic is going to your network, going to your machines, and the IBS will take a decision, okay, to block this traffic. And when it's blocking, your machine will not working. So IBS in these cases will be like really dangerous solution to implement within this fragile networks. So how can we really monitor the traffic within our networks? Okay, we have a firewall there, but the firewall main area is to really protect from outside attacks to inside attacks. But how about what kind of traffic is moving around these networks? Then I have to have an IDS. And the difference between the IDS, he will be there seeing your traffic. We'll talk in detail about IDS today. It will see your traffic and sending this traffic and sending anything that looks suspicious to a monitor screen where someone is monitoring the IDS alerts so he can take a proper action. Or maybe the IDS will be connected to the same solution and all the alerts coming from the IDS are going to the same SOC tier 1 to take an action accordingly. So in some cases, we can use an IBS. In some cases, if I don't want a prevention action, I can really use the IDS. Okay, guys, so far so good. Okay,
yes,
Okay, we just need to go and explain one concept before we go ahead and look at this, guys. This is another diagram. Here, this is the same exactly NIST CSF again, over and over. I wanted you always to remember this, because this is how you implement any security program within any organization. Okay, we started with identification, protect the organization important assets and data, and here detection. What we trying to detect, to do a detection for, is to try to detect unauthorized access and data breaches. So this is the most important thing over here, guys, is to detect any unauthorized access. Okay, so that's mean your prevention techniques was not 100%, and someone really managed to compromise a network. And we looked at the threat hunters, what they do exactly, and which area exactly they are really focused on. And we talked about the kill chain yesterday and the day before, what is the kill chain. And we said in the last areas in the kill chains, the attacker wanted to be resistance. He wanted to really install some application. He wanted to really start command and control with an external party, so they can control the machine. And they wanted to act in their objectives. And this is part of the cyber security chain. And this is where the threat hunters are really looking for evidence, because we mentioned any contact with any computer systems, it will leave a trace over the network, or basically the computer system, or maybe the server, or maybe the database they were interacting is. So the threat hunter job is to really look for these traces. So look for a certain specifically event or evidence that the attacker were compromising something. Okay, so the main area here for detection is to respond to events. So any event that's happening within your network, analyze risk areas. What we mean by analyze risk areas, mean in the early beginning, guys, the hunter may be identify the TTP after analysis. Yes, exactly. So this is part of, I would say, not the hunter within the organization. I would say this will be the researcher, the threat intelligence. The threat intelligence is the one that is gonna do the TTP. Okay, how this is happening, guys? How they come up with these TTPs to start with? Okay, so the American government and a lot of institutions in the US and a lot of big companies, they are been in the security for a long time, like Cisco, FireEye, Mandiant. There's so many of them. You know, I don't want to miss anything. IBM, X-Forces. They have teams from researchers, from threat. They call them threat intelligence research. There is an actually job for this. If you can Google, if you can go to LinkedIn, you'll find some jobs called threat hunters or threat intelligence researcher. And what the threat intelligence will do is someone is going to study the attack methodology to attack the system. How they do this in reality? They have honeypots. If you guys remember what is honeypots, honeypots is basically a simulation for a real system, but it's made vulnerable intentionally, so the attacker can attack these machines, and they lure the attacker to attack this machine, and they understand their tactics and techniques and procedures. But this is also, you know, is not 100% the best way to hunt for new threats. But this exists a lot, especially I was listening to a webinar a few days ago, saying this is their favorite way in the NSA to see the traffic coming from Iran. So they set up a very well organized honeypots, and in the honeypots, you as a researcher can study what the attacker will do. Okay, now they attacked a certain vulnerable service running on this machine. And once they did this, so they exploited the system. They have tried to add a new registry on this machine. Okay, so this is another techniques. Once they have their registry added, they started to connect to this using a backdoor or using a command and control, using a certain domain name exists in maybe in Philippines. So now you are studying everything the attackers are doing in this machine, so you can come with the tactics, with the techniques, with the procedures exactly how the attacker are doing. Okay, If I confirm it, where these attackers are coming from, now I will have the full narrative report. So the narrative report saying, you know, there is a group in Iran called ABT-15, and these guys are their tactics and techniques to exploit the system is this tactics and techniques, and I can publish this. So anyone who working as threat hunters, and they know that Iran is one of their potential adversaries, they can study these techniques. And once you study and the techniques, if you remember, guys, last day and week 4, we talked about how to break the kill chain, and you can break its kill chain by doing what? When you do a threat hunting and you find one of these evidence of compromise within the network, you go back to your incident response team and telling them about this, and they started to remediate. Or maybe if you are if one of these techniques can be can be breaking but before the system has been compromised, you can just go to your protection teams, like your security engineer, and say, you know what, I found some of my system are not batched. Maybe if you batch the system now, these techniques and this specific TTPs will not work within our network. So all of them are falling apart into either you be good in protection or either you be good in detection. So we do all the threat hunting and the threat intelligence basically to minimize the risk of being exploited. So you can minimize this by, okay, when I understand my adversary, I can really come up with a new hunting techniques and detection techniques and prevention technique to really protect better my networks. So this is the whole idea. So I hope this explains the whole idea, Shaza. Here, this is one important part of detection, guys, that we also focus in, especially the stage of being reactive. Okay, and also it's also good when being proactive. Yani sometimes you really need to understand some logs from different systems. So in this area, you need to aggregate information. What type of information? You need to aggregate events from a different systems. I will tell you that we have application running in our computers. So this application are creating some logs and some events. Okay, we have the operating system itself is creating. How do we really aggregate this information, guys? So we mentioned any information systems consists of network part. So this is the layer of network. Okay, we have also the operating system part. Okay, and on top of the operating system part, we have the middleware, or we have the application, and lastly our data. Okay, but we have this is running all over the network. So we have different servers, and all the server run different application. We maybe have also different operating system. We have different network connectivity, some of the external, some of the internals. Okay, I really need to, the word aggregate means I really need to collect all this data to one centralized place. And I explained yesterday and the day before why it's important to have a SIEM solution, because again, all these logs exist in the system. So if I'm doing investigation on this system, guys, I can get the logs for application, operating system, and network. But I will not have the whole pictures for my entire network. I will not know if the attacker managed to compromise this machine, and then from this machine started to really jump to another machine. Why? Because I don't have the full visual pictures. So I need the whole full visual picture for my entire network, for my entire computer systems. Who is going to help me to do this? This is the same solution. And again, the same solution, guys, is just a database where you having a connection to database to collect all this data, to aggregate this all data, put it in one place, have it in the same format, like a proper nice format, so everyone can be able to read it and it's understand. Why? Because if you get different type of format, you will be confused as someone who's doing the investigation. So if you get like Windows logs, the Windows logs looks different than the network logs. It looks different than the application logs. And I will show you today some examples. They look really different. Okay, but the good thing about the SIEM, it will do something called parsing for this format. So it will create one standard format. For it's easy for you to read and grasp what's happening in your entire network. Okay, So another thing, guys, you need to monitor all the time, and this is part of the NIST recommendation. Is you need to have a continuously monitoring for all your events. And here, if you guys allow me and have some nice, let me just clear this one. Incident response. They have one certain let me check this out. One certain publication, okay, that talks about continuously monitoring, only coming from NIST. I'm not quite sure where I was reading it yesterday, so it's somehow it's my computer, but let me just try one more time here. The incident response, how to confirm, malware analysis, Google hacking. Okay, I'm not quite sure where did I hide it. It should be in one of these tabs. Okay, so I'll just go for Google. Okay, it was NIST. Okay, incident response and continuous monitoring. Continuous monitoring. Yeah, this one. This is the one that I was talking about. This is NIST 800. I told you guys we have two kind of NIST publication. The NIST framework is giving you the whole big picture, how you really need to implement how to implement protection within your network and detections. And here is basically another NIST publication is called 800-137, which is basically, it's all about information security continuous monitoring. It will give you a guideline how to collect the logs, how to parse these logs in one centralized location, and what kind of feeds you really need for these logs. So it's really nice document to read. I will share it with you guys. So yes, for sure, they can work in multiple theories. Okay, it's again, guys. What I have noticed from what threat hunters they do in real life, they are, first of all, they can come with hypotheses according to the intelligence they get from outside. Okay, so he will do his investigation. If the investigation didn't work, okay, they will do another hypothesis. Okay, so the first hypothesis, maybe this computer has been compromised. Okay, how would I know it's compromised? Let me check for certain logs or certain registries in this computer. Okay, if I can't find these registries, it doesn't mean that this computer is not compromised. Let me do another hypothesis. If that's one of these applications within the computer is also compromised. Okay, so let me look at the logs related to this application, because why he started to have a suspicion on these applications, because he read an intelligence saying, you know what, we have now an Adobe PDF attacks or a threat that can compromise your PDF application. So now he first of all he thought about the whole machine is compromised. Now the whole machine is not compromised. Maybe the application only is compromised, or maybe the network only is being compromised. So he can work in multiple hypotheses in every machine according to what assets he's looking for. Okay, guys. So this is find and analyze artifacts. So once you aggregate all this data, okay, to one centralized place, guys, and in this centralized place, which is SIEM, and that's why SIEM solution is important. And later on next week, we'll give you how to implement SIEM. So you should be able to have a SIEM running within your virtual environment or maybe on the cloud. So once you aggregate all this SIM, triage here means what? The triage here in cybersecurity incident response approach is to identify, adding priority, and resolving cybersecurity attacks. So the same tier 1 and the incident response team, they do something called triage. What is a triage, guys? Once I find out about an incident, okay, I will not leave this incident without giving it a priority. Some things where I give it high severity, and some of these incidents I'll give it low severities. Why? Because high severity is really connected to how important this asset is and how critical is this asset is. And that's again takes you to the point that we were talking about yesterday. You really need to understand what is the crown jewels within your organization. What we mean by the crown jewels mean the most important assets and critical assets within your organization. You have very important database, you have very important server, you have a very important, for example, device within the organization like IoT system, okay? Then this is your crown jewels. And then if we see any event that shows the device has been compromised, or there is an identification for a compromise, then right away the severity of this case will be very high. And that's will also, when it's been transmitted the case to the incident response team, they will be able to work with the higher priority cases than the lower one. Why? Because the higher priority will have a great impact on us. So this is also will take us to what we have already covered before, that you really need to understand what is assets you are trying to protect. And this is also what we have talked about yesterday when we talked about the threat hunters. The threat hunters really look after the important asset within your organization. Okay, why? Because the important asset within your organization, if it's been compromised, it will have the greatest impact on your objective and vision. Okay, and once you aggregate the information and monitor all the triage alerts, you can go and find and analyze artifacts. And finding and analyzing artifacts will be able to help you to find the root cause of the issue, how this machine has been compromised. Okay, and finally you start to manage the incident and go to the incident response. So this is basically a quick revision for what we have covered in the last few days, guys. For today, as I mentioned, we will look at how to aggregate information and monitor all this data at the same time. So this is the topic for today. And again, it makes sense because we talked about what type of detection exists in the last 2 days. So we said there is a detection called reactive detections, okay, which is the SIM team, and we explain what is the SIM team responsibilities. Okay, we also mentioned there is a proactive way, which is basically the threat hunters, and we mentioned also that threat hunters use threat indication or indication of compromise coming from threat intelligence. Again, both of them, end of day, they need logs. They need some data coming from your network in order for them to really verify if it's a real incident or no. Where is this logs coming from? From your systems. What kind of logs exist in your systems? That's what we're gonna discover today and talk today. Okay, guys, does this make sense so far? Okay, so aggregation information and monitor all the triage alerts. This is the SOC team functionality. And what example of security incidents we have already maybe covered before, but this is some of the incident that's happened. An incident is basically when a threat compromise a vulnerability. So anything that can really pose a dangerous on your confidentiality, integrity, and availability is considered as threat. So here, a computer system breach or data breach means that someone breached your confidentiality. Okay, unauthorized access to system or software or data, this is someone compromised your confidentiality. Unexpected change to some important data, this is a compromise for your integrity. Unauthorized device connecting to corporate network, well, also this is an indication of confidentiality issue. A distributed denial of service attack, this is an issue of availability because the system will not be available. So this is all an incident. And important servers going down, this is a compromise for your, basically for your availability. So this is all of them considered in incidents, guys. Okay. So the SOC team and is looking for these incidents to happen, so in order to react. So again, what kind of security logs we're looking at in any information system? The information system consists of layers. One of them is the hardware, one of them is a network, one of them is operating system, and one of them is the application. So you really need to log and to have a proper logs from all the system. So information about the events occurring within an organization, system, and networks. Okay, so you need to really collect all of them. What is the difference between event and incident, guys? Event is usually something happening in your computer or your network. Okay, it shouldn't be bad thing. Okay, like someone is logging to his computer, that's an event. Okay, someone has managed to connect to a network board, this is an event. Okay, so it's not something harmful. But incident is anything that's compromise your confidentiality integrity. This is what an incident is. Okay, so not every event is an incident. Okay, so this is the first differentiation between event and incidents. So operating system logs, we talked about the OS logs. Whether you have Linux, Windows, Unix, you should have logs from all the systems. Okay, you don't say, okay, you know what, Linux is really good when it comes to security. So this is so I don't need really to protect my Linux. Or some people are under this impression that Mac OS is better when it comes to security than Windows. So this is also a false sense of security. So you really need to collect logs from your all operating system. Also application logs. And I mentioned the application is whatever running over your operating systems. Every incident is considered an event. Yes. So every incident is considered an event with an impact on your confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Okay, guys. So here, application logs for application running on system and servers, such email server. You have an email running on top. Database servers. Okay, your browser is an application. Okay, any HTTP if you are running a web servers. Okay, so a web server is running over an operating system. This is also an application. So you really need to collect the logs. So this is basically, you have to really look at this from this perspective. My IT system consists of network, the first layer, okay, because this is where I'm connecting to everyone else, operating systems, okay, and application, okay, whether it's a database, whether it's a browser, web server, whether it's a mail server. So I really need to connect logs from here and from networks and also from application. Okay, why, guys? Because this will give you the full picture. The most important thing to really correlate between events and see there is something harmful happen is to see the full picture. You will not be able to see the full picture without having the network logs. And so the network logs of network and host-based security software. So you're not only collecting the logs from your firewall, IPS and IDS, maybe you're also collecting the logs for security from your personal firewall also and personal antivirus. Okay, guys, so far so good?
Yes, so far so good.
Okay, so let's go ahead and try to break inside why we need this logs, why we need specifically network traffic, guys. Okay, so the network traffic, as I mentioned to you, one way for the attacker to get inside your network is basically, the first thing is they can come using physical ways, but if they cannot come through physical ways, they will definitely come through the network. So collecting the network logs will give you an idea what is the attack vector, okay, how the attacker managed to get into your network. Who has the logs for the network is basically the devices within the network. So if you have a firewall, and we mentioned the firewall is that's all the external traffic coming through the firewall. So the firewall will have definitely logs for all and every single connection that happened over your network. So having all these logs coming to a centralized location, it will allow you to see all the traffic and all the logs, who's the sender, who's the receiver, what protocols they used to communicate, okay, what is the timing for this communication, what have been server that's being connected to, if there is any DNS resolutions happened before the connection or no. So this is all of things that you really need to know. Okay, why you need to do it? For multiple reasons. One of them is for investigation the events. So here is, okay, if you wanted to really figure out who is generating this troublesome traffic, okay, so you wanted to know who is after your system, who is the attacker, and where this traffic is being transmitted to or received from. So you know by looking at the logs coming from the firewall, what is the source address, what is the destination address, okay? What is the protocol is being used, if this traffic is malicious or no. Why I need to know this? It will help me for my SOC team to understand what is happening. So this is the first area. So the SOC team will be able to understand what is this event is all about. It's also good for my digital forensics team later on to see who is the attackers, and later on they can go after this attacker. They can say, okay, we noticed this is this traffic is originated from this area, and we really need to really go after these attackers. Specifically, his machine was attacking our network, and here is a proof that he was using a Tor network to access our network. So this is also good. It's also good for the threat intelligence, because the threat intelligence, they wanted also to tell everyone who was the attacker and from which country was this traffic originated, from where this malware is coming, and all this stuff. So basically, the network traffic is important. Also to analyze the threats and find solution, exactly as says Shaza. So Shaza is a big fan now I would agree with Shaza, is a big fan about MITRE attacks, and I agree with her. So in threat hunting, okay, I need really to know where is this traffic originated from, what kind of malware are spreading, what is the APT behind them. So looking at the traffic, it can tell me a lot about the attacker. And as I mentioned, the threat hunter, the best tools they have right now is to set up a simulation for a vulnerable system like a honeypot, and then really they start to analyze what kind of attacks happen. Okay, and also investigating network traffic, it will allow us to locate the suspicious network traffic, to locate it within our network. Where is the traffic are heading and within our network? It went from the firewall to then a router. Okay, so I need really to get this router to send their data feeds here, because I can see who is coming from, okay, all the way to the router here. Okay, I need to also the router traffic to tell me which computer or which switch got this traffic and which computer within our network. Okay, because in network communication, you throw all your traffic to the router, and the router will be the one who is responding and sending the data to the firewall. Okay, so you need also to get the feeds from the router to locate where this which machine has already involved in this, or which network was involved in this. And also investigating network traffic is also helpful for network to solve network and the troubleshooting issue. So if you have seen, let me jump very quick, an application I used it myself before when I used to work in this corporate environment. It's called, I'll just show it to you very quickly. This is Network Flow Analyzer. If you guys can see here, this is specifically software. It can be installed in one computer, and it can be connected to all the devices within your network. It can be connected to routers, firewall, switches, and it can tell you, okay, what traffic now is generating within your network. Okay, which ports are running smoothly with no issues. If the traffic spike like this, it can help you to really say, okay, I have a spike here in this second. Why this spike is happening? So it's this visual looking at the traffic, it will help you to troubleshooting issue. So if you have maybe latency, which is mean that your network late to communicate with external outside, or there is some people are really saying that we are browsing the internet, but everything is late. This kind of application, guys, can help you to trouble this issue. And this is a software coming with is really good when it comes to Cisco devices, because it's a web-based, and it can monitor the bandwidths, can monitor the devices. So if one of your devices is down, it can help you to troubleshoot. So it's good to have insights about these this networks in order to solve and troubleshoot. Okay, guys. So far, so good. Okay. Also, network forensics. Okay, it's also good to have some network evidence to tell you what's happening within your network. So, and really identify if there is a criminal activity happened within your network. So having this, it will allow the incident response and the digital forensic team to really rectify issue. And it's here how you can do this. You sniff and record an acquisition, and then finally analyze. Okay, so how can we really sniff the data? Because this is a big topic. Okay, I maybe explained it before. Especially sniffing the traffic, guys, is not easy in a switched network, because if you remember how a switch working, the switch working as something called separate collision domain. And the separate collision domain, if you guys remember how router works, sorry, how hubs works, the hubs was very easy to sniff. Because someone send the data, this data will be sent to every single port within your hub. So it's easy to sniff the data. But in the switch, when you are sending a frame, okay, this frame needs to be specifically going to this certain destination. It cannot go to anywhere. Okay, so how can I, if I have decided to sniff the traffic in the switch, how can I really sniff the switch? And what kind of devices are existing within the switch? So what happened, guys, in the big organization, they will have their firewall. Okay, this is a firewall, I will give it F. Okay, firewall, and they have this router, okay, connecting to a different networks within the organization. Okay, and to connect the firewall and the router, you need a device. Okay, you need basically a switch. So now I wanted really to see every single packet within my organization coming from the firewall going to the router. What can I do? Because the firewall, because I have here a switch, no hubs anymore. Okay, what I need to do is the switch. I need to send a copy of this data to the router. Okay, and here is their computer, which will be able to sniff the traffic, and I will have all the traffic here coming from the firewall. So what they will do, they will do something called here a span board. A span board or a mirroring board. Mirroring board saying, okay, every single traffic coming, make a copy to the router and make copy to this specific port over here. Okay, so when you make two copies, a copy go to the firewall and the to the router, and the router will be able to route the traffic within the network. The mirror board or this mirror board or a span board will send a copy of this traffic to the same solution or to the engineer who is monitoring the traffic. Okay, guys, and this is will be able. Again, let me show it in a better diagram so you can understand what's happening, Ustaza Shah. Okay, so I have a firewall. Okay, we agreed that the firewall is connected to the internet, right? So if anyone wanted to reach your network, okay, he need to come from the internet to your firewall, right? So the firewall is a very important device to really monitor, right? Again, the firewall does not have the capability to route data. Who is the responsible for routing your data? Is a router. So you really need to send the traffic from a firewall to a router, and the router is connected to a different devices over here, and these devices may be a switches, and the switch is connected to multiple clients. So this is a computer over here. Okay, now I wanted to see the traffic going on between the firewall and the router, because this will give me an indication what data coming from outside and what data are going from my network to outside. So I will add a switch here. Okay, this switch, I will connect one port to the firewall and one port to the router. So now both of them are the same switch, and if the router wanted to send something to outside world, it would be forward to the firewall, and it will be gone to the internet. If there's a traffic coming from the internet, the firewall will filter it, and then we'll send it to the router to really distribute this traffic within the organization. You understand this part so far?
Yes, it's clear.
Okay. Now I wanted to sniff, because the first thing here, it's saying you need to sniff. Okay. Not only sniffing, you need to record it as well. Sniffing means that I wanted to have a copy of this network traffic going from the router to the firewall and coming from the firewall to the router. So what can I do here? I will add a port here, and this port, they will call it mirroring port. And there is a certain configuration to really say mirroring port and say, you know what? I need this port to have a mirror from this port, like this. Let's say this port 10. Okay, this is a port 10. Okay, and the firewall connected to port 1. Okay, and the router connected to port 2. Port means physical port. Okay, so now I wanted really all the traffic to go to port 10. So I will say, you know what? Port 10 is a mirror of port 2. That means any traffic going to from port 2 or going to port 2, it will make a copy and send it to port 10. And I will say also port 10 is a copy of port 1. So any is a mirror of port 1. So at any traffic going to send it to the firewall, it will send a copy to port 10. What we have here in port 10, we have our SIEM solution. So this all traffic are going to our SIEM solution, okay? And the SIEM solution is, as I mentioned before, is a huge database that it can really take this data after sniffing and start to really organize this data in a better way so you can see who's the source, who's the destination. So now by doing this port mirroring or spanning port, okay, you can see all the traffic going to inside the organization and coming from inside the organization. Okay, so now you have full visibility for the data. And now you need to record it. Once you record it and once you have it in your SIEM solution, you can start to analyze it. Why? Because some of this traffic is denial of service attack. Some of this traffic are SQL injection attack. Some of this traffic is cross-site script attacks. So you can see this kind of attacks in the network traffic as well. Okay, guys? So network forensics can be defined as sniffing, recording, acquisition of analysis of the network traffic and event log in order to investigate network security incident. And here, guys, it allows investigator to inspect network traffic and logs to identify and locate the attacker system or the attack system, okay? And network forensics can reveal source of the security incidents and network attacks, path of the attacks, which is, we called it the attack vector, and intrusion techniques used by the attacker. So it's good also for the attackers, okay? It's good for the threat hunters to understand what techniques they use to sneak some intrusion within the organization. Why, guys? Because let's say that you have a computer and this computer infected by malware, okay? So in once it's infected by the malware started to communicate back to the attacker. Okay, how he will communicate back? He's gonna communicate back using the router, going to the firewall, going to the internet. So this network traffic, you can have a copy of it right now and you can analyze it. You can say this machine, a specific machine, started communication with a server that is really well known that is spreading, for example, malwares, or it's known as a command and control center. So how would I get this information? I get this from a threat intelligence. Now, if I'm analyzing my my logs and I manage to add this threat intelligence also on top of it, I can tell you, yes, this is an attack. One of our machines are really communicating with a command and control center. So really looking at the network traffic can tell a lot about what kind of activities happen within your network. And that's why, guys, when I told you about the cloud brokers, you remember when we talked about cloud brokers and we have the cloud over here and we have our network over here, or users. I said sometimes I wanted visibility to see what my my users are doing in the cloud. They said there is so many cloud brokers right now. You can monitor the traffic going from your network going to the cloud, and this can be implemented within your network or can implement it within the cloud to really give you a visibility what kind of traffic they initiate to go to the cloud. And if this one of these users are malicious, you can easily discover. Okay, by implementing this port security, by sniffing the data, by looking at and analyze this data, you can tell if something maliciously happening within the network or not. For sure, you will need more logs to really confirm. And these logs will coming from the operating system and the computer, which is infected by this malware. So you can tell using the network traffic, there is something malicious. This specific machine are really talking to this command and control center. So this is the first part of the puzzle. The other part of the puzzle is basically if I can collect some logs from this machine, can tell me, okay, this user downloaded this file, and this file downloaded another file, and this another file added this registry file on the logs. So you can now have the full picture. And that's why the network is the first part of the puzzle. And that's why today we'll focus in network, and maybe tomorrow we'll look at the application and operating system logs. Okay, guys, so far so good?
Yes, so far so good.
Okay, Ustaza Shahad, is it clear what is the port mirroring are doing? Okay, another thing that you guys wanted also to know, this is a quick reminder about, there is something called host layer, which is the data, and this layer is going to be the application and presentation session. We called it data. In the transport layer, we called it segments. In the network layer, we called it packets. Okay. In the data link, we called it frames, and physical are bits. So we're really looking at all of them. We're looking at the protocol are used. Okay, we're looking at are we using TCP or UDP? We're also looking at the network. What is the IP address source and destination? We're looking at the frames. What is the frame source and destination? Because looking at the frame can tell me if there is ARP poisoning or no. I don't know if you have, maybe we covered ARP poisoning before. And ARP poisoning before is an attack that is really telling your client, I am a hacker, I am your router, send me all the traffic, okay? So how can you find out about your poisoning? If you started to look at the frames and see where is this frame originating from and where it's heading to. So if you look at the frame header and you look at the source and the destination, you can tell, oh, this is the frame originating from this machine, but why it's not going to the router? This is an interesting. So you can even looking at the frames, you can tell if there is ARP poisoning within your network or no, guys. Okay, so far so good. Okay, evidence gathering and sniffing. So what is a sniffer again? A sniffer could be a computer software or hardware that can intercept and log traffic passing over a digital network or part of the network. So what we mean by this, guys, we mean that in order to sniff the data coming to your computers or coming within the network, you need an application or a software. Okay, what is the software is going to do? This software is going to be able to really intercept the data, and once they intercept the data, it will really show you what is the data looks like. Okay, one of the sniffers that we used already in the previous maybe labs, we used an application called I don't know you guys used the TCP dump or no, but you used Wireshark, right? How many of you have already used Wireshark so far?
We do assignment before about
exactly. Well, yeah, exactly. So Wireshark is a sniffer. Why? Because once you install Wireshark, you can specify which network card you want the Wireshark to be able to sniff the data. And once you enable or you start Wireshark, it will show you all the traffic has been generated over this network card. But this is only for your machine. Okay, so the Wireshark as a software are gonna help you to do this over a machine. But I don't want this over machine. I want to do this over an entire network. Okay, so I need a sniffer that can really do this over the network. And that's why in another lab, we use the Snort. Snort is an IDS or IBS system. It can be used for both, but in the same time also, guys, Snort used as a sniffer. So you can install Snort on a hardware or like a certain computer, and let Snort to look at the traffic coming back and forth. Okay, so Snort is also another application that can really sniff the data and intercept the data, and then it will give you some sort of what's happening within your network. Okay, exactly. This is a lot of data, and that's why you need to filter what is the known good, what is the known bad, and also the gray area you need to investigate. So I agree with Lamia. Okay, so over the network, you will see maybe thousands. Imagine if my computers are creating thousands of communication right now, because all of us are communicating over Zoom link. Okay, it's literally thousands of communication. Imagine if you have an entire network and they are connected to the cloud, and they are connected to maybe a different branch office in some other area in the world. We have a website, and this website is connecting to so many customers. Imagine how much traffic. And that's why when inshallah you set up the QRadar or the same solution, and you started to get the network feeds, you will see crazy amount of data coming every single second. Okay, and if in order for you to see which data you are interested on, they have here filters. Like when we have in our Wireshark a filter, we can filter the traffic by the source, by the destination, by the protocol itself that's being used. So we can really try to investigate what's happening in our network. So this is what the sniffer is all about. Which sniffer, in order for sniffer to work, we put the network card in promiscuous mode, which is basically mean that our network card is now not active in sending, but active in receiving. So this is what we mean by promiscuous mode, are used to collect digital evidence at the physical layer. So basically the cable are connected to your network card, and the network card in the data link layer. And once you started to add, to assign this device or assign your network card in the passive mode, to start also to receive the data and take a log from this data to your Wireshark. Okay, guys, so this is how you sniff data. Again, I explained span port. This is, and you do it in a switch, especially in a switched network. You cannot really see all the data. So you need to configure one specific port to be working as to work as a mirror port or a span port. So I explained also the span port. Investigator should configure a sniffer for the size of the frame to be captured. So you really need to make sure that you have enough space to capture all this data within your solution. Okay, there is two type of analysis. If you guys allow me to show you here, so there's two type of analysis, especially in the network. There is real-time analysis, okay, and there is post-mortem analysis. And the difference between them, okay, some of them are historical analysis. Okay, historical analysis that something happened within 1 week before or 2 weeks before, and we really need to look at the traffic at that time. So we really do analysis for the historical data that we saved. And there is a real-time analysis. Real-time analysis to really show you what's happening within the network right now and what kind of traffic is generated. So we need to do both analysis. Why? Because maybe, guys, I have a machine that was infected by a malware, but this malware was not active for maybe 1 week. And now all of a sudden, the attacker started to send commands and control to this machine. So now I know this machine is being infected. Okay, but I wanted really, in order to fix the issue, I wanted really to go back on time and see how originally this machine is infected. Okay, so I really need the historical data. So in so many solutions of SIEM, it will tell you, this SIEM solution come with around maybe 1 tera of database. You can save up to 1 tera, or maybe you can save data up till 1 month. Okay, in this specifically SIEM solution. Why they giving you this time? This is the 1 month's time is where you can go back on time and look for the data here and find it. If it's more than 1 month, what will happen? It's you either to implement an archive solution. So you add all this data to an archive. So later on you can bring it, because after 1 month, the data here in the SIEM solution, it will start to override and you cannot find the data. So I really need the historical logs, especially if something happened before. If something right now happening, so someone is saying, someone is opening a denial of service attacks, I really need to see the sources. I really need to isolate this network. So the real-time analysis will help me for what attacks right now happening and take an action. So one of them are really good in investigating and responding to a real-time attacks. And one of them is good when it comes to an incident response and digital forensics. Okay, guys? It's an ongoing process, as it says here. Okay, So here over here, it's saying one of the solution to capture the traffic is basically this is if you have one machine, as you can see, and this machine is gonna be only monitor one specific part of the network. So you can use using a Wireshark. So the Wireshark is traffic capturing and sniffing tools. Wireshark you use WinBcap to capture packets, so it can only capture the packet on the network supported by WinCap. Okay, that's why when you install WinShark, it will install WinBcap within your installation. Okay, it's captured live network traffic from Ethernet, IEEE 800.11, which is a wireless protocol. It captures point-to-point protocol, ATM, another protocol for communication, Bluetooth, USB, token ring, which is something similar to the IP traffic. Capture file can be programmatically edited via command. What we mean by programmatically edited by command, you can specify filters to see the data. One example of these filters over here. Okay, so you can say, okay, I wanted, this is Wireshark screenshot. And as you can see, you can display filter in Wireshark. So you can display certain IP address. You can display certain protocol. You can display certain port. So it can allow you to do. So here, if I wanted to see if any communication happened over the telnet, I can specify TCP.port. And that's why it's saying it's done by programmatic way. Programmatic, you add the protocol dot the port equal 23. If you wanted the IP address, you say IP.address equal to this IP address or this IP address. So it's the programmatic here. It can use the logic operation to write something, and the filter will work accordingly. Okay, guys. So this is the Wireshark. I know that most of you have seen the Wireshark, so there's no need for me to show you the Wireshark again. But this is another way to sniff data and capture the traffic. Okay. Okay. I just wanted to show you an use case. What we mean by use case, guys, and like an attacker within our network. Shall we take some break and we come for this attack scenarios? Hello?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, so we'll take a break, 15 minutes, guys. This is, I think, would be nice now to have some coffee. We cannot just go for a long time without coffee. So I will say we come at 10:30. Okay.